Someone said the leftist media claims to advocate for rights of the poor, the people of color, the women, the LGBTQ community, and illegal immigrants, yet it has not condemned the massive election fraud. The main reason is that the foundation of communism is the belief that any means can be used at all costs in order to achieve the so-called justice. This is also what the radical left upholds. Their so-called justice is, in reality, the distorted justice communism proclaims. It is time to make this clear. Someone replied, in the name of working for the welfare of the common people, communism has led to tens of millions of unnatural deaths. Believing in communism is equivalent to following the path to hell. Someone shared this picture, which is part of a collection that shows China in the eyes of the Flying Tigers, also known as the first American volunteer group of the Republic of China Air Force, from 1944 to 1945. Someone shared that as early as when the Communist International entered China, Mikhail Borodin, the leader of the Comintern mission to China, proposed that the CCP must rely on ruffians and hooligans to be the revolutionary vanguards. Later, whether during the rural land reform campaign or the urban strike, the CCP relied on lumpen proletariat to enact its policy agendas. Because it was not easy to mobilize the honest, kind, and law-abiding workers and peasants to revolt, given their faith in traditional culture to discipline their conduct. Someone replied, in fact, many farmers did not at all believe in the CCP's so-called campaign of attacking despotic landowners and dividing their land. The main participants were gangsters. Others were forced and threatened to join. Someone replied, farmers actually hated the Communist Party very much because the victims of the CCP's violent land reform campaign were the entire peasant class, including landlords. At that time, there were also more than 3 million ordinary farmers in various places who armed themselves to protest against the campaign. Yet the CCP labeled them as political band-aids. Someone shared that because of Alibaba and JD.com's high-profile moves to mobilize consumption, the CCP may soon introduce measures to punish these companies and affiliated individuals. Someone replied, whether the current move to benefit from private enterprises or the supply and marketing cooperatives that it has established, these actions were not intended to destroy non-public competitors, but rather the CCP just wanted to find an excuse to incorporate all the economies with the ultimate goal of eliminating private ownership. Well, the CCP has deprived the Chinese people of their freedom of conscience and religion. It has forced them to believe in itself. Now it even mandates students to recite words of gratitude before eating. On November 23rd, Hong Kong pro-democracy activists Joshua Wong, Evan Lam, and Agnes Chow were arrested. Someone shared this picture taken on the streets of Taiwan. The billboard reads, "Heaven will destroy the CCP, tyranny must perish. This is God's will. Those who obey the mandate of heaven will prosper. A new era will begin in China. Stand with Hong Kong." Someone shared this video clip from author Trevor Lawton, in which he talked about how the CCP has been allegedly interfering in the U.S. elections in a covert way.
The Chinese Progressive Association, working directly with the Chinese consulate in San Francisco, set up worked with a whole network of these groups in the key states. I'm talking Texas, Florida, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. They set up groups specifically in these states to work inside the minority populations to flip these states. And they were very, very successful. Communist Party USA, which is also pro-China, and they have done massive voter registration drives in these states. They have signed up hundreds of thousands of voters, and they claim that they claim in their own writings that they won the election for Biden. They claim that they flipped Michigan, that they flipped Wisconsin, that they flipped Arizona. They boast about this. So these are pro-Chinese organizations working with the Chinese Communist Party to flip states. 7,000 volunteers. In Arizona, they made 8 million phone calls. They knocked on 1 million doors in Arizona alone, all generated by pro-Chinese communists. So they are just going out there on the ground, door knocking, phone banking, voter registration, shipping people around in buses to get them to vote at the polls, all perfectly legal stuff, but it's operated in the interests of communist China, specifically to elect Joe Biden, who they love, and to destroy Donald Trump, who they certainly do not love.
Someone replied, many overseas Chinese organizations are controlled by the CCP's United Front Work Department. They appear to be civilian organizations, but they are all actually funded by Beijing. The US should mandate them to register as foreign missions. Someone said, I once asked a colleague from Europe, why do you hate Trump so much? She said, Trump discriminates against women and people of color. I said, can you please provide me with an example? She said, just go watch CNN. This netizen also said, for the past 4 years, the so-called US mainstream media has been conscientiously and continuously spreading rumors to discredit President Trump and sowing hatred among the public. Even now, some people who helped commit fraud in the election believe that they were doing the right thing, while paying disregard to the nature of this act, which is unconstitutional and criminal. Someone replied, those that reside in states and cities controlled by the Democratic Party may be leading increasingly difficult lives. All types of policies are being tightened and restrictions are put into place, especially for small business entrepreneurs. Real estate taxes have increased. A friend who fled New York 7 years ago chatted on the phone and said, New York is now a socialist state. Someone replied, the worth of my sister's apartment in New York has dropped from $1 million to $800,000. Someone replied, the Democratic Party is doing this to suppress the hardworking and tax-paying middle class. Someone replied, not only is there a swamp in Washington, D.C., the entire U.S. is in a huge swamp. Back when Trump said that Hollywood celebrities were overrated, I couldn't accept it. Now I fully realize that I have been brainwashed. Communism has infiltrated every aspect of American life. It is like a massive net that is nearly impossible for ordinary people to break through. Although independent thinking brings itself with a cost, and at times the cost may be high, but to me, it is all worth it. Someone shared this VOA article also highlighted that in 2020, the Western world has waken up to the CCP's true color. The CCP is a virus that endangers the whole world.
Child, we will take you in. Child, we will bring you home. You'll be a flower that sees the spring. Soon a dove flying high.